Alright, so this is going to be the first episode of all the basics and strats you'll need to know in Knuckle stages. And I don't know everything, so I can't share everything, but this will be a good starting guide for learning all of the Knuckle stages. And I'm going to start with Wild Canyon, since that's the first Knuckle stage. It's probably not the most important because it's rather short. But it always should be rather short, at least, and I'm going to show you how to make it rather short. And this stage, since there are no diggable pieces, and most of the pieces are kind of out in the open, and I'd say about half of them are out in the open, maybe the other half are hidden, it's possible to see a lot of the pieces before the radar is even going off for them. So the pieces we see in advance are called free pieces, and there's a lot of free pieces that you can be looking out for. So there's one that starts right above your head as soon as you spawn in. When you spawn in, you're just going to want to look at the top of the screen. Every time you start the stage, always just be looking at the very top of the screen. And if you see an emerald for about half a second, you know, well, it's right there, and you can do a spiral uppercut to grab it. Another piece right off the bat is in this chest right behind me. You can check for that. You don't actually want to physically check for it by punching it, because that wastes time, and it's usually not going to be there. So you can use the camera as you're walking forward towards this hint. You can clip the camera into it. So, here's another example of a free piece that you want to be checking for at the very start. You can see at the wind tunnel there's a free piece right there. I do believe that is a second piece. It might be a third. I don't actually remember because I never miss it. I always see that piece. So whenever you see that, you just want to, like, obviously get your first hint and then collect that. And then start flying up and collect your first piece, wherever it is. That was a terrible demonstration of what you should do, because you obviously should check the hint first. And I would have known where that piece is based on the hint. And I'm pretty sure that was what it was based on my radar, but besides that, we'll keep talking about the free pieces you can see from the start. There is one that starts way in the back, in between those two pillars in the background right now, and it starts flying around clockwise. For that piece, if you see it, you collect your first hint, of course, and then climb up here, land right on there, and by the time you land on this pillar, the piece will be flying across this pillar and you'll collect it. Assuming you optimally did it, or whatever. Oh, look, I'm sliding. Phantom forces. That's interesting. Alright, there we go. There we go, Knuckles just had a little party. So there are also a few pieces that you can just know exactly what they are right from the start based on your radar. So if the radar is red, it's always going to be this chest right here, the one to your right when you start, like behind you and to the right. That's the only piece that's close enough to make your radar turn red from the start. There are two pieces that can give you a yellow radar from the start. One of them is above these feet right here. It's right. This is right where it would be. It's a nice, easy piece to collect. Always good. The other place would be you fly over to check if it's these, and if it's not there, you start climbing up here. Do a little corner climb, which is climbing against a wall to make you start climbing a bit faster, so like that. You don't want to actually do that climbing up the ledge animation, so you go back to the right before you reach the top. And then it'd be in this chest right here. And then you can go collect a hint. And of course, if you have a yellow radar, you don't go for the first hint You just go right for the piece because it's only going to be in those 2 locations. Same with the red. Obviously, you don't need to check the radar. There's only one place it can be. There are a few pieces that can... Okay, well, here's a demonstration of it being in that chest. There's a few piece locations that can start you off with a green radar. One of them would be right on top of this pillar. Another would be right down here, the wall painting. I do believe they might give you a brief flash of yellow as you spawn in, and then green, and you can just know what those pieces are without checking a hint. If it's neither of those, it's probably one of those floating rocks above. And if it is, you would know based on the hint. It would be... There's 4 piece spawns. Alright, there we go. It's a very common first hint because there are 4 different locations for it. So near the 6 pillars, if your radar is green from the start, it's always going to be one of the closer ones. One of the 4 rocks that's floating above that is nearest to you when you start. But if your radar is not going off, it's going to be one of the back 2. And I'll demonstrate how to collect those pieces efficiently in a second. But right now, I have to restart to do that because the cycles, they float up and down in cycles. And right now they're really messed up because I was waiting around for a while. So I'll demonstrate what near the 6 pillars piece collection would look like in both cases. So if your radar is going off from the start and if it isn't. So there are 2 execution scenarios, but 4 different piece locations. Kind of hard to explain. I'll just show it to you. So I'd collect the hint. Let's just say it's near the 6 pillars, and it was the bar one because the radar wasn't going off. I'd start by hitting those 2, and that would collect the piece. And I hit them in that order because that's what the cycle demands, basically. Alright, this is a perfect example. So the radar's going off. It's going to be one of these 2. And of course I waited around for a bit so the cycles are messed up, but you, again, collect from right to left. Or no, you collect from left to right. That's the order you check them in. And that's the best way to execute that. It's important to know how to get the right amount of height you can from... Oh, that's the piece I was going to demonstrate getting, and I just happened to get it. So it's important to know how to get the right amount of height from that wind tunnel, and not go too high, and, you know, of course, get enough height to get up to places like here, and the one that starts back here. There's the first piece that's also right here. It's called Wild Canyon Track, I believe, and I forget the hint for this piece. I think it's in between something with red and green stripes, something like that. I always recognize it if I get the hint, but I don't actually remember it right now. It's down to muscle memory at this point. So you need to put in like some time just practicing getting just the right amount of height. See, if you stay in it too long, you go too high. You always will maintain more control if you're in a glide. And of course, the wind tunnel has the ability to take you out of a glide if you go too far into it. Let me give you a common scenario. Oh, that is another good example of a free piece check. So I know there's a piece inside this stone statue because the piece sometimes loads in before the statue around it does. So you can see it for just a really short amount of time. Then you can pull this out and then punch it to grab it. And you always want to remember that you've already collected your hint before grabbing that free piece. So yeah, that's another potential free piece. It's kind of hard to catch. And of course, there's another free piece floating in between these two statues on the right. So a common scenario would be getting near the stone statues. This is actually a really good piece. Let's just say I got near whatever those two are. Let's say I got those two, and then after getting those two, you'd actually want to check a hint down below, but let's say I got something like in one of these chests or in front of it or something. There's always the question of, ooh, should I go to the right to get a hint or should I go to the left? Always go to the left. Always. Because this area is much more rich with free piece potential. There's a free piece that can be in between these two pillars. There's a free piece that can be floating around that head in the background. There's a piece that can be floating back and forth between these pillars. There's a piece that can be like right up here. There's a piece that can be right above the head. There's just so many different pieces that can be in this area that you can see if you come over here. And also there's a lot of pieces to be collected from here, as you can see. So just coming in here will almost, well, not almost always, but it will usually be leading you in the right direction to collect your second piece. No, shut up, you. So if you don't see a free piece, you are probably still going in the right direction to collect your second piece. And of course, if the radar isn't going off, there's a hint right here that I just collected that you would collect. Another thing to try to study is the layout of the upper stage relative to the lower stage. So I know right now that I have to go over this way to collect that piece, just because I know the layout of the stage. It's kind of easy to just not ever really learn the layout of the bottom portion of the stage relative to the top portion. But I know that if I want, from the start, if I want to go to the area with the big stone, let's collect this first. And whatever that was. I think that was one of the floating stones, but I didn't really execute it properly, so obviously I didn't get it. So I know right coming out from the middle, without even looking around, if I wanted to go to the area with a head, I would go to the right, and if I wanted to go to the area with all these, the statue storage area, as it's called by the hints, I'd go over this way, which is to the left from the start. So, alright, so there's the free piece floating between these two statues. You want to just try to quickly collect it like that. This is actually a bad piece, and if I didn't see a free piece at the start, I would reset for it, because it's all the way over here. Might not actually reset for it, it's hard to say. But yeah, let's, finally just try to demonstrate what I'm saying. If I want to go to the stone statue, the statue storage area, I'd go to the left from here. And if I wanted to go to the place with the giant head and the shit ton of free pieces, I'd go to the right. So let's just say I want to go to the shit ton of free pieces. I'm going to start going to the right already, so that I'm already closer when I come to the top and I don't waste any time. If I have like center of the 8th pillar, you just want to come out of that getting a lot of height and then collect it. Probably won't need to glide reset or anything. The more height you have, the better. I'll try jumping off of this pillar maybe to collect it. It'd just be really high up, floating in the middle. Let's say you get shit for height. Try to jump off of this slanted surface and then maybe jump off of that and collect it. If I have sandy path to a stone statue head, that's a piece that can yield, I think, 3 different locations, and then there's a sandy path leading to a stone statue head, or to the head of a stone statue, which is actually a separate hint, and it's a separate piece. Still in the same area. So that can be in 3 locations. If the radar is going off really early, it's probably this guy. It's going off kind of early, but it's obviously not that guy. It's the guy that's floating up here, which that's what it was right now. And if it's not going off for either of those, it's going to be the guy in the back. So you sort of jump off of this sloped surface. So that's how you would collect that piece. I don't think I have anything to say about this area. There's a piece that can be moving around here. Just know that it's always going to be on the same cycle if you come towards this area on the same speed, because it only starts moving around when it loads in. So it might be like around here somewhere. The moving piece, that is. There's also a very annoying moving piece that can be at the bottom of the wind tunnel area. I do have a fairly solid way to execute that if I'm coming from this area. I just come into the bottom, land on this statue right here, and it's going to be moving around counterclockwise, and it'll be... I just have to wait like a couple of seconds, and then a jump and glide would get me right into it. If you're coming from the other side, I haven't actually developed a strat for that yet. But yeah, that's an annoying piece. Yeah, the very last thing to mention I'm going to cover is these things. I think I already showed this, but you don't want to actually push them until you collect the piece. You only want to push them for about 2 seconds. Like 1, 2, release, and then you punch. And punching expands your hitbox, and it will allow you to collect the piece. So yeah, that's it. That's Wild Canyon. Pretty much completely covered. There are different strats if you don't have the shovel claw. Like if you're not doing a Centurion and you're doing Hero Story, you can like do drill drives onto downward slants, like downward sloped surfaces, and that will give you a lot of running speed. But since that's only used in Hero Story, I can't really cover it here because I already have the digging upgrade. So yeah, that's Wild Canyon. Everything you need to know about it.